Just throw money. We ready? We often hear about the Dutha Jedanan, the Shining Ones, and the battles that they fought against the Fomorians and the Fir Bolg. But how often do we hear stories from the other side? The first story I'm going to tell you tonight is the last battle of the Fir Bolg. I hope to do it justice. The sun was beginning to set. Engus, son of Umar, stood on the buttresses of the castle that had been built by his people, the Fir Bolg, on high places, inaccessible. And he thought about the times and what was happening. Oh, his sword arm was wounded, and old blood and new seeped through the bandages. But he did not go into the battlements himself, for the piles of bodies and the moans of his dying people. And he stood on the battlements in the cold wind and the sea spray. And his mind went back into the history of his people, the Fir Bolg. For the Fir Bolg had come to the land that we call Ireland, and had fought against the Fomorians, who were rather, shall we say, evil. And though they assaulted the fortress, great waves came over the Nemedians and washed them away. And those of the Fir Bolg who survived, who were children of Nemed, some went to the Northlands, and some went to Greece. But the thought of that green island was always with them. 2 centuries passed, and the Fir Bolg returned to reclaim the green land that we call Ireland. And they divided it into 5 provinces, each with a ruler. But there was one who was called the High King of the Fir Bolg. And it was to this particular fortress that was built high on the cliffs, on the Bay of Galway, high in Inishmere, that they would come and they would do treaties, and they would have council, and they would have contests, poetry, athletics, horse racing, and all went rather well. But one time, later on, the others who had gone to the Northland to learn the magics came, and these were the Dutha Jedanan. And they came in magic, and they raised mist and smoke. And the battles were fierce, and the battles were bloody, and many were lost on both sides. And the Fir Bolg were again pushed out, and they retreated to another place. Years later, they returned, hoping to take back again that green land that we call Ireland. But things had changed. There was a new king in Tara, Carabre, one of the sons of Mil, for the Milesians had come and had conquered the Dutha Jedanan. And King Cabrim welcomed the Fir Bolg back, and he gave them succor, and he gave them land, and he began to later on distrust them. He grew paranoid in their powers. He was afraid. And so he came from the east And there were great battles. And more of the Fir Bolg were driven back. And they lost their provinces until the only one left was at the Bay of Galway, where Angus, in his Dun Angusa, his castle, waited. And he remembered standing on the battlements of sending out his 3 brothers and his young son, Conall, to fight against these. And they were defeated, and his young son, Conall, who was to be a great king, was killed in battle against the Cuchulainn, the Hound of Ulster, who killed him with his great Gebolga, the fiery spear. And Angus, the last king of the Fir Bolg, thought, why should I stay? My people are dying. I have no son. My only son, my only child. Why do I even fight? And those thoughts went through him, and he kept hoping and hoping that the Lord of Storms would open the sky and drench the armies that were coming. But the only thing he saw was the blood-red sea as the sun sank below the horizon. And Angus, the last king of the Fir Bolg, turned and went into the battlements. And he tied on his sword, he picked up his shield, and he picked up his spear. For what better way to go than to die amongst your enemies? And he knew that that was the end of his people. And the only thing left to remember them by was the battlements, the castle, stained with the dark blood of the last of his people.